All right, this is going to be one of the shortest sermons some of you've heard. Okay, it's gonna be like 5 minutes because we've got things written in Spanish and Korean if you want to follow along there. But we're really just wrapping up this study that we've been doing for the last 2 months, where we've been talking about standing firm in the spiritual battle that we all find ourselves in every single day. We are in the midst of a spiritual battle, and today it really all wraps up with prayer. With prayer. That's how this whole passage ends. Let me read these final verses. Ephesians 6:18 through 20 says, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me, and opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. And so when we think about this spiritual battle that we're in, when we think about the spiritual battle that we've been talking about, prayer is essential to holding it all together. Prayer is essential to putting on our armor of God every single day. Prayer is involved in every single part of that. When we talk to God and when we listen to God, we fill our minds and we fill our hearts with dependence on Him, with faith in Him. It's all about, or it kind of all comes together in prayer. So when we think about this idea in this spiritual battle, if I'm just to say it simply, prayer is ongoing communication with God, right? That's essentially what prayer is, just ongoing, regular communication with God. When you think about this, that every healthy relationship should have regular communication, right? Like I think about my marriage, my relationship with my wife. I'm communicating with her regularly in all sorts of different forms. Throughout the day, sometimes we're just texting back and forth, right? These little text message communication pieces. Sometimes we have a little bit longer dialogue, back and forth conversations with each other, particularly mornings and evenings, because there's like 4 other kids running around our house and things like that. But then every once in a while, when we get a date night, we get hours of dialogue, right? Hours of communication. Now, that's not every single day that we're talking at that length, but we have all sorts of communication that's ongoing communication. When you think about prayer, it's really similar with our relationship with God. He wants this ongoing communication with Him. Sometimes that's just going to be short little prayers throughout your day, little text message prayers. Sometimes you get some devoted time in the morning that you might be able to be still and talk to God and listen to God. Other times you might get a more extended time to just be still with God in that longer form of prayer. But all of this is strengthening our relationship with God. All of this is strengthening ourselves in this relationship to be able to stand firm in the middle of the battle. So I love, there's Pastor John Piper, some of you have heard of him. He talks about prayer like this. He says, prayer is a wartime walkie-talkie, not a domestic intercom. Prayer exists for advancing the mission, not for calling the butler to turn up the thermostat. I love that, right? Because that's what Paul is saying here in these final verses of Ephesians, talking about the spiritual battle. Prayer is that walkie-talkie, that communication that we have with God. These verses are calling us to use prayer like that communication with God, like that walkie-talkie. That there's times, if you've been here these last couple months, you know that we're over our heads sometimes. We don't know how to navigate our lives, and we don't know what to do on our own, but we have the armor of God. We have prayer, the walkie-talkie, talking to God, that we get to call in an airstrike, or we get to call in reinforcements. We get to call in the support that we need to actually stand firm in our relationship with God, living in this world. So real quick, 2 things we are called specifically to pray for in these verses is 1, to pray for Christians to be strengthened. Right? He says, to be praying for all the saints. We need to pray for one another in each one of our walks, in each one of our role, that we can carry out the role that God has called us to. Pray for Christians to be strengthened. And 2, he's calling us to pray for missionaries to be bold. Pray for missionaries to be bold. We need to be praying for those who carry the gospel forward. You get that. In these verses, Paul's the missionary. And he's the one saying, hey, I need you guys to pray for me that I can continue to be bold, to carry the gospel message into people's lives that are unreached, into nations that still need to hear the good news. We pray for missionaries to be bold. And so that's what we're going to do this morning for a few minutes, okay? We are going to spend some time praying together. First, there's going to be several people and groups of people that come up here to share very briefly about some opportunities that are taking place for outreach in our community and for mission trips around the world. Taking place through Green Hills. So you're going to hear about those things, and then then we're going to take time and we're going to just, in our service right now, we're going to pray for those things. Okay, and we'll give you some instructions for that in just a minute. But really, we all have a role to play. Not every single one of us is going to go on a mission trip. Not every single one of us is going to go and even have service opportunities right around us. But every single one of us does have a role to play. We can all pray for those who are going. And some of us, we can also give financially to those that are called to go, whether that's a long-time missionary, whether that's short-term trips. We all have a role to play. So let me invite Pastor Martine to come up, Pastor Matt to come up, Darlene to come up. You guys can all come forward right now. And as they come up, in your handout, you'll see, too, that over these next couple of weeks, we've got some great missions opportunities, some missionaries that are going to be in town next Sunday, as well as the following Sunday. You can find that in your pamphlet there. June 7th, Ronnie and Jessica are going to be here. June 14th, Matthew and Melissa Stock are going to be here. Look at those details there. But let me hand it over to Pastor Martine, and Darlene's making her way up here as well to hear a little bit more about outreach opportunities.